The room was tense, the kind of tension you could almost reach out and touch. Every camera in the chamber zoomed in, every reporter held their breath, and every viewer at home felt the weight of the moment building. Senator John Kennedy leaned forward in his chair, his eyes fixed on Adam Schiff, and in that instant, everyone knew something big was about to happen. What started as a routine exchange was about to turn into one of the most unforgettable confrontations on live television. For weeks, Schiff had been making statements that many believe painted America in a negative light. His sharp criticisms, though passionate, often carried undertones that some felt crossed the line from constructive debate to outright disdain. Kennedy, a man who prided himself on plain talk and straight shooting, had sat through it all. But this time, he wasn't going to let it slide. The chamber grew quieter. Schiff raised his voice, laying into the flaws of the country, emphasizing corruption, division, and what he claimed was the decline of American values. His words echoed off the walls, laced with frustration and a tone that felt more accusatory than hopeful. The crowd of senators, aides, and visitors shifted uncomfortably. Kennedy's jaw tightened. To him, Schiff wasn't just criticizing policy, he was insulting the very foundation of the nation Kennedy loved. When Schiff finished, the silence was deafening. Then Kennedy slowly removed his glasses, looked directly at him, and spoke in that unmistakable Louisiana drawl that had carried him through countless battles. "Congressman," Kennedy began, his voice calm but cutting, "I listen to you talk about this country, and I wonder, do you even like America? Because if you don't a broken bar, if you despise her so much a broken bar, then maybe you ought to find yourself a place you do like. If you don't like America a broken bar, then leave." Gasps rippled through the room. The words landed like a thunderclap, direct and unfiltered. Schiff blinked, stunned, his usual quick comebacks lost in the air. The audience, both in the chamber and watching from home, erupted in a wave of whispers and murmurs. Kennedy didn't stop there. "This nation is not perfect," Kennedy continued, his tone firm yet heartfelt, "but she is still the greatest hope on God's green earth. Millions dream of setting foot on her soil. Millions have fought and died to protect her. If you see problems, fix them. If you see injustice, call it out. But don't stand there and act like America is nothing but a failure. That's an insult to every soldier, every teacher, every farmer, every worker who gets up every morning and makes this country stronger. You want change? Work for it. But if all you can do is spit on the flag, maybe the problem isn't America. Maybe the problem is you." The room fell silent again, but this time, the silence was heavy with respect. Even those who didn't agree with Kennedy's politics couldn't deny the passion and sincerity behind his words. Schiff shifted in his seat, visibly rattled, his confidence shaken. The CNN cameras caught everything: Schiff's frozen expression, Kennedy's fiery resolve, and the stunned faces of those watching. As the session went on, Kennedy's words continued to echo. For many, it wasn't just a political showdown, it was a reminder of what patriotism truly meant. It wasn't about blind loyalty or ignoring flaws. It was about loving your country enough to fight for her, not against her. Kennedy had drawn a line in the sand: criticize with the intent to build, not to tear down. That night, clips of the confrontation spread across social media like wildfire. Millions replayed the moment Kennedy leaned in and said those unforgettable words. To some, he was brash. To others, he was exactly the voice America needed, a reminder of pride, gratitude, and responsibility. By morning, talk shows debated, headlines exploded, and regular Americans in coffee shops, offices, and living rooms found themselves asking the same question: do we really love this country enough to make her better? Or do we just complain about her flaws? For Kennedy, the victory wasn't about silencing Schiff. It was about reigniting something deeper, an emotional spark of patriotism in the hearts of people who might have forgotten what America stood for. He didn't demand perfection from his country, only appreciation for her promise and respect for her people. And so, while Schiff sat quietly in the aftermath, Kennedy walked out of that chamber with his head high. He hadn't just won an argument, he had reminded America of her soul. The lasting message was clear: you can disagree, you can debate, You can demand better, but if you lose sight of the privilege it is to be an American, you risk losing the very thing that gives you the freedom to speak in the first place. Kennedy's words weren't just for Schiff, they were for every American watching, a challenge echoing across the nation. If you don't like America, then leave. But if you love her even with her scars, then stand up, fight for her, and never forget how blessed you are to call her home.